Hello, beautiful souls, and welcome to Emma's Stories. You're not just viewers, you are our loving family, a community that cherishes the magic of romance, the kind of love that blooms in the toughest moments and warms your heart no matter the storm. If you adore tales of passion, sacrifice, and two people finding their way to each other against all odds, you're exactly where you belong. Today, we're diving into a story that'll sweep you off your feet, a journey of trust, secrets, and a bond that defies the shadows. So grab a cozy blanket, settle in, and let's begin. Picture a rainy evening in Seattle, the city wrapped in a soft gray mist. Meet Avery Brooks, a young woman with a gentle strength that shines through her quiet demeanor. She works at her family's struggling company, Brooks Solutions, fighting to keep it alive while her mother, Clara Brooks, battles a serious illness. Avery's world is small, her days filled with worry, but she'd give anything to save the ones she loves. Across the city stands Jasper Reed, the powerful CEO of Reed Innovations. He's a man of steel and shadows, his sharp eyes hiding a heart wounded by betrayal long ago. Jasper doesn't let anyone close, not anymore, but beneath his cold exterior, there's a flicker of something waiting to ignite. One stormy night, everything shifts. Avery's father, Henry Brooks, desperate to save his company, hands her a keycard to room 417 at the Silver Crest, a grand hotel glowing against the dark skyline. "Go to Jasper Reed," he says, his voice trembling with urgency. "Convince him to help us. It's our last chance." Avery's heart races. She doesn't know what she's walking into, but Clara's life depends on it. Dressed in a simple black dress, she braves the rain and steps into the hotel, a place that feels like another world with its golden lights and polished floors. She knocks on the door and Jasper answers, his presence commanding and cold. He mistakes her for someone else, a gift from a business deal, and before Avery can explain, he ushers her inside, the door clicking shut behind them. The room is dim, the air thick with unspoken words. Jasper assumes she's part of a game he knows too well, his voice clipped as he tells her to stay. Avery's too shaken to argue, her mind spinning with fear and duty. The night passes in a tense silence, but when morning breaks, Jasper sees the truth. Avery isn't who he thought. She's untouched, a stranger who stumbled into his guarded life. He watches her sleep, her face soft against the pillow, and feels a pang he can't name, a crack in his armor. For Avery, the night leaves her shaken, ashamed. Yet when she meets his gaze as she wakes, there's something in his eyes, regret, maybe a spark of something deeper. The days after that night stretch out like a quiet ache for Avery. She's back at Brooks Solutions, surrounded by stacks of overdue bills and the hum of a dying business, but her mind keeps drifting to room 417. She can still feel the weight of Jasper's gaze, the way it shifted from cold judgment to something softer, something she doesn't dare name. She tells herself it was a mistake, a humiliation she needs to bury. But late at night, when the house is still and Clara's breathing is steady in the next room, Avery's fingers trace the memory of his voice, low and commanding, yet laced with a regret she can't understand. She hates that part of her wants to see him again, hates that she's starting to wonder if he felt it too, that spark in the silence. Meanwhile, Jasper sits in his sleek office atop Reed Innovations, the Seattle skyline sprawling beneath him like a kingdom he rules. He's used to control, to keeping people at arm's length, but Avery has slipped under his skin. He replays that night over and over, the way she stood there trembling, the way she didn't fight back when he assumed the worst. He'd thought she was just another pawn in a game he's played too many times, but when he saw her in the morning light, untouched and vulnerable, it rattled him. For the first time in years, Jasper feels something dangerous stirring, a pull he can't shake. He tells himself it's nothing, that she's just a fleeting distraction, but his hands betray him. He finds himself reaching for his phone, ordering flowers, white lilies, her quiet elegance in bloom, sent to her address with no name attached. Then a note, scribbled in a moment of weakness. "You're a mystery I can't solve." He sends it before he can stop himself, his heart thudding with a mix of defiance and longing. Avery finds the flowers on her doorstep one gray afternoon, their petals soft against the rough concrete of her world. She stares at them, her breath catching. No one's ever sent her flowers before, not like this. She knows they're from him, she can feel it, but she doesn't know why. The note arrives the next day, slipped under her door, and when she reads it, her chest tightens. A mystery, he calls her. She wants to laugh, to cry, to scream. He doesn't know her, doesn't know the weight she carries, the nights she spent praying for Clara to hold on. Yet those words cling to her, a whisper of something she's afraid to hope for. She tucks the note into her pocket, telling herself she'll forget it, but it stays there, a quiet secret against her heart. Enter Mila Brooks, Avery's younger sister, a woman with a smile that charms and eyes that scheme. Mila's always lived in Avery's shadow, resenting the way their parents lean on her, the way she holds the family together. When she hears about that night at the Silver Crest, whispered through Henry's late-night rants about the company's last hope, jealousy flares. Mila wants what Avery stumbled into, a chance at Jasper Reed, a ticket out of their crumbling life. So she spins a lie, casual at first, then venomous. She tells a friend, loud enough for it to spread, that Avery didn't just meet Jasper that night, she slept with Nolan Pierce. A slick businessman who once promised Henry a deal that fell through. The rumor catches fire, twisting through Seattle's gossip circles until it reaches Jasper's ears. Jasper hears it over a glass of bourbon at a business dinner, Nolan's name dropping like a stone into his thoughts. He freezes, the room fading as the words sink in. Nolan Pierce, a man he despises, a snake who'd sell his own soul for a profit. The idea of Avery with him claws at Jasper, a betrayal he didn't expect to sting so much. He downs his drink, his jaw tight, and storms out into the night. He tracks her down to Brooks Solutions, where she's working late, the office lit by a single lamp. He bangs on the door, and when she opens it, startled, he doesn't hold back. "What game are you playing?" he demands, his voice sharp enough to cut. "Nolan Pierce! Is that who you really are?" Avery's eyes widen, confusion turning to hurt. "What are you talking about?" she asks, her voice trembling. "I don't even know him." But Jasper's too angry, too wounded to listen. "Don't lie to me," he snaps, turning away, leaving her standing there, the rain soaking through her thin sweater. Avery watches him go, her heart sinking into the puddle at her feet. She doesn't understand how he could think that, how he could believe she'd sell herself like some cheap deal. The rumor stings, but his distrust cuts deeper. She slams the door, sliding down against it, tears mixing with the dampness on her face. She pulls out his note, rereading it through blurry eyes. "A mystery," she whispers bitterly. "If only you'd asked." The next morning, a package arrives. The small silver necklace with a tiny pendant. No note this time, just an engraving. "Forgive me." She holds it up, the metal cold against her fingers, and her breath catches. It's beautiful, fragile. A plea she doesn't know how to answer. She clasps it around her neck, the weight of it settling against her chest. A tether to a man she can't let go of, even if she should. Jasper paces his apartment that night, the city lights flickering beyond his window. He knows he overreacted, knows he let the rumor twist something he doesn't fully understand. He saw the hurt in her eyes, the way she shrank under his words, and it haunts him. He doesn't trust easily, but with Avery, he wants to, and that terrifies him. He picks up his phone, hesitates, then dials her number, only to hang up before it rings. What can he say? That he's sorry? That he's starting to feel something he can't control? He drops the phone, staring at the rain, wondering if she's wearing the necklace, if she's thinking of him too. Avery's days blur into a haze of exhaustion. Brooke's Solutions is crumbling, the phone ringing with creditors she can't pay, and Clara's hospital bills pile up like a mountain she can't climb. She wears Jasper's necklace every day, its cool weight a silent question she doesn't know how to answer. She tells herself she's done with him, that his accusations proved he'll never see her for who she is. But when she closes her eyes, she sees his face, the flicker of regret in his dark gaze, and it stirs something she can't bury. She's caught between anger and a hope she's too afraid to name, a hope that maybe, just maybe, he feels it too. The flowers keep coming, lilies arriving without a sender, and each one chips away at her resolve. She presses a petal to her lips one night, whispering, "Why can't you just say it?" Unaware that Jasper's watching her from a distance, his car parked across the street, his heart pounding with words he can't find. Mila Brooks watches this all unfold with a smirk she hides behind her coffee cup. She's tired of being the second daughter, the one Henry overlooks while Avery carries the family's burdens. That night at the Silver Crest was supposed to be Avery's failure, but instead, it's given her something Mila craves. Jasper Reed's attention. Mila's not content to let that stand. She's been cozying up to Nolan Pierce, a businessman with a grin like a fox and a reputation for dirty deals. Nolan once pitched a partnership to Henry that fell apart, leaving bad blood and unpaid debts. Now, Mila sees a chance to turn the tables. She meets Nolan at a dimly lit bar, leaning close as she spins her plan. "Avery was at the Silver Crest that night," she says, her voice smooth as silk. "But let's say she was there for you, not Jasper. Plant the story, make it stick." Nolan chuckles, swirling his drink. "And what's in it for me?" Mila's eyes glint. "Revenge on Reed, and a cut of whatever I get when I take him for myself." The deal is struck, and the lie grows legs. The rumor takes on a life of its own, twisting through whispers and knowing nods, until it's a truth no one questions. Mila doesn't stop there. She digs up an old photo of Avery and Nolan from a company event years ago, doctoring it just enough to sell the story. Then she plays her trump card. She slips into the Silver Crest one night, using Henry's old connections to get into room 417. Dressed in Avery's style, a simple black dress and a borrowed scarf, she lingers just long enough for a blurry security camera to catch her. She leaks the footage to a tabloid, claiming it's proof Avery was there with Nolan, not Jasper. When Jasper sees it, his world tilts. The woman in the grainy image looks like Avery, and the date matches that night. Doubt gnaws at him. But so does something else, a pang he can't name. He slams his laptop shut, his hands shaking. He wants to believe her, but the evidence is a knife in his chest. Avery feels the walls closing in. Henry calls her to the house one evening, his face grim. "Clara's getting worse," he says, avoiding her eyes. "We need money, now. Go back to Jasper, make him help us." Avery's stomach drops. She's still reeling from his last rejection, his voice ringing in her ears. "I don't trust anyone who hides behind lies." But she thinks of Clara, frail and fading, and nods. She finds Jasper at his office, the city lights painting him in gold and shadow. He looks up, his expression hard. "What do you want now?" he asks, his tone clipped. Avery takes a breath, her voice steady despite the tremble in her hands. "My mother's dying. We need your help. Please." Jasper leans back, his eyes narrowing. "And I should believe you after Nolan?" Avery's heart sinks. "I told you, I don't know him. Why won't you listen?" But Jasper's too far gone, the rumor's a shield around his wounded pride. "Get out," he says, turning away. Avery leaves, the rain soaking her as she walks home, her tears lost in the downpour. Jasper can't let it go. The image of Avery with Nolan haunts him, but so does her voice, the hurt in her eyes when he pushed her away. He hires a private investigator, a gruff man named Cole, to dig into that night. Cole comes back with a lead. Nolan threatened Avery at the Silver Crest, cornering her in the lobby before she even reached Jasper's room. Jasper's blood runs cold. He drives to a small coffee shop where Avery sometimes goes, finding her hunched over a cup, her face pale. He slides into the seat across from her, his voice low. "Why didn't you tell me?" Avery looks up, startled, then weary. "Tell you what? That Nolan grabbed my arm and said he'd ruin us if I didn't play along? You'd never listen." Jasper's jaw tightens. "I'm listening now." She shakes her head, a bitter laugh escaping. "It's too late for that." She stands to leave, but his hand catches her wrist, gentle but firm. "I was wrong," he says, his eyes searching hers. "Give me a chance to fix it." Avery pulls away, her heart racing, torn between the man she wants to trust and the pain he's caused. The tension breaks a few nights later. Mila's plan escalates when she hires a thug, a wiry man named Ray, to stage an attack on Jasper. She wants to swoop in and play the hero, proving she's the one he needs. Ray waits in an alley near Jasper's apartment, a baseball bat in hand, as Jasper walks home from a late meeting. The rain's stopped, but the air's thick with unease. Ray swings, aiming for Jasper's shoulder, but then Avery appears. She'd been trailing Jasper, needing to talk after their coffee shop moment, her heart pulling her back despite her better judgment. She sees the bat, screams his name, and throws herself between them. The blow catches her arm instead, sending her crashing to the wet pavement. Jasper spins, fury igniting as he tackles Ray, pinning him down until the man scrambles away into the dark. He drops to his knees beside Avery, her face twisted in pain, blood seeping through her sleeve. "Avery," he breathes, his voice breaking. "Why did you do that?" She looks up, her eyes glassy but fierce. "Because I couldn't watch you get hurt." He pulls her close, his arms trembling around her, the world fading to just the two of them in that cold, quiet alley. The hospital room is a quiet blur of white walls and beeping machines as Jasper sits beside Avery's bed. Her arms in a sling, the bruise from Ray's bat a stark shadow against her pale skin, but she's awake. Her eyes meeting his with a mix of exhaustion and defiance. Jasper hasn't left her side since the alley, his suit rumpled, his hands restless. He keeps replaying her words, "because I couldn't watch you get hurt," and they echo in his chest like a song he's only just learning the tune to. He reaches for her hand, hesitant, then stops, his voice low. "You didn't have to do that." Avery manages a faint smile, wincing as she shifts. "Someone had to." Her words are light, but her gaze holds a weight he can't ignore, a depth that pulls him in despite the walls he spent years building. He's about to say more when a nurse steps in, handing him Avery's jacket from the alley. As she leaves, something slips from the pocket, a folded piece of paper fluttering to the floor. Jasper picks it up, his fingers brushing the worn edges. It's a letter, the ink faded but legible, dated 6 months ago. He glances at Avery, who's drifted into a light sleep, then unfolds it, curiosity overriding his manners. The words hit him like a punch. "If I could trade my life for hers, I would. I'll do anything, even if it means losing myself. Clara deserves to live, and I'll make sure she does, no matter what it costs me." It's unsigned, but he knows it's hers, written in her neat, careful hand. His breath catches as he reads on. "There's a man named Nolan Pierce who wants to destroy Reed Innovations. I heard him talking to Henry. If I can get close to Jasper Reed, I can stop it. I just hope he never finds out why I'm really there." Jasper's world spins. This isn't just a plea for her mother. It's a confession, a plan, a sacrifice he never saw coming. He stares at Avery, her face peaceful in sleep, and pieces snap into place. That night at the Silver Crest wasn't just about money for Clara. It was about him, about protecting him from a threat she barely understood. She'd walked into his room knowing Nolan and Henry were scheming, knowing she'd be caught in the crossfire, and she'd done it anyway. The rumors, the silence, the way she'd let him push her away. It was all to keep him safe. Jasper's throat tightens, guilt and awe crashing over him. He'd called her a liar, but she'd been his shield. He slips the letter into his pocket, his hand brushing hers as he whispers, "You fool. Why didn't you tell me? Avery stirs, her eyes fluttering open to find him staring, his expression raw. What's wrong? She murmurs, her voice groggy. Jasper takes her hand this time, firm but gentle. I found your letter, he says, watching her tense. You risked everything for me, even when I hurt you. Why? Her breath hitches, panic flickering before she softens, tears welling up. I couldn't let them take you too, she says, her voice breaking. Clara's all I have left. But you were something I didn't expect. I thought if I stayed quiet, Nolan wouldn't suspect I knew. I thought I could handle it. Jasper shakes his head, his thumb brushing her knuckles. You didn't have to handle it alone. She looks away, a tear slipping down her cheek. I didn't know how to trust you with it. Their moment shatters when Mila Brooks storms into the picture. She's been watching from the sidelines, her jealousy boiling over since the attack failed. She'd hired Ray to hurt Jasper, planning to save him and win his gratitude, but Avery ruined it. Now, with Avery in the hospital, Mila sees a chance to twist the knife. She goes to Henry, her voice dripping with fake concern. Avery's hurt because of Jasper, she lies. He's dangerous. We need to get Clara away from him, from her. Henry, desperate and blind, agrees. Mila arranges for Clara to be moved from the hospital to a private facility, locking her away under the guise of protection. She calls Avery, her tone icy. Leave Jasper, or Clara stays where you'll never find her. Avery's blood runs cold, but she hides the phone as Jasper steps back in, his investigator Cole trailing behind. Cole's got news. The footage from the Silver Crest was doctored. The woman in the video isn't Avery, it's Mila, caught in a lie to frame her sister. Jasper's fury ignites, but Avery's trembling, her mind on Clara. She doesn't tell him about Mila's threat, not yet, her instinct to protect him still overriding everything. Jasper senses her fear, though, and pulls her close. Whatever it is, we'll face it together, he says, his voice steady. Avery nods, leaning into him, her heart torn between the man she's falling for and the mother she can't lose. They track Mila to an old warehouse near the docks where Clara's hidden. Jasper's team moves fast, but Mila's waiting, Nolan at her side, a smug grin on his face. You're too late, Mila taunts, holding up a phone with a live feed of Clara, frail in a locked room. Avery lunges, but Jasper holds her back, his eyes locked on Nolan. This ends now, he says, his voice lethal. Cole slips them a recording from a bar, Nolan boasting about his plan to ruin Reed Innovations, Mila laughing along. Jasper plays it loud, the sound bouncing off the walls. Mila's face pales. Nolan curses, and in the chaos, Avery breaks free, racing to a side door. She finds Clara, weak but alive, and pulls her into her arms, sobbing with relief. Mila tries to run, but the police swarm in, tipped off by Cole. Nolan's hauled away, spitting threats, while Mila collapses, her schemes crumbling. Hours later, she's found dead in her cell, a note confessing her jealousy, her desperation to be more than Avery's shadow. The news hits Avery hard, a mix of grief and guilt, but Jasper's there, his hand in hers. They drive to the Seattle coast at dusk, the sky streaked with gold. He stops the car, turning to her, his voice soft. You saved me before I even knew I needed saving, he says, pulling a small box from his pocket, a ring glinting inside. Be mine forever. Avery's breath catches, tears spilling as she nods. Yes, she whispers, falling into his arms, the sea whispering around them. The air is crisp and sweet on a spring morning, as Avery stands in a small seaside church just outside Seattle. She's in a simple white dress, the silver necklace from Jasper gleaming at her throat, a reminder of every step that brought her here. Her hands tremble slightly, not from fear, but from a joy so big it feels like it might spill over. Clara Brooks sits in the front pew, her face glowing with health and pride, a miracle made possible by the money Jasper quietly funneled to her care after that night at the warehouse. Henry's there too, quieter now, his eyes soft with a regret he'll never voice. The pews are sparse, just a handful of friends and Jasper's assistant Cole, but it's enough. This isn't about a crowd. It's about two hearts finding home. Jasper waits at the altar, his usual sharp suit traded for a softer gray, his dark eyes locked on Avery as she walks toward him. He's never looked more alive. The cold CEO melted away by the woman who saw through his walls. When she reaches him, he takes her hands, his voice steady but thick with emotion. "I didn't know what love was until you showed me," he says, loud enough for only her to hear. "You're my strength, my truth." Avery's eyes shimmer with tears, her smile breaking wide. "And you're mine," she whispers back. The vows are simple, promises of trust and forever, sealed with a kiss that feels like the first light after a long night. The small crowd claps, Clara dabbing her eyes, and for once, the world feels right. A year later, the Seattle skyline fades into the distance as Avery and Jasper sit on the porch of a cozy house by the coast. The sun dips low, painting the water gold, and a soft cry drifts from inside. Avery stands, Jasper following, and they step into a nursery bathed in twilight. There, in a crib, is Luna, their daughter, her tiny hands reaching for the mobile above. She's 3 months old with Avery's dark hair and Jasper's steady gaze, a perfect piece of them both. Jasper lifts her gently, cradling her against his chest, and grins at Avery. "She's our light," he says, his voice warm. "Just like you are mine." Avery leans into him, her head on his shoulder, watching Luna's sleepy smile. "And you're ours," she replies, her heart full in a way she never thought possible. Life isn't perfect, but it's theirs. Brooks Solutions is gone, sold off to pay debts, and Henry's retreated to a quieter life, leaving Avery free of his demands. Clara lives nearby, her laughter a constant now, no longer a fragile hope. Jasper scaled back at Reed Innovations, trusting Cole with more, choosing nights with Avery and Luna over late hours in the office. They've built something new, a family forged in the fire of everything they survived. Sometimes, Avery catches Jasper staring at her, a quiet wonder in his eyes, and she knows he's thinking of that night at the Silver Crest, the moment she walked in and changed him forever. As the stars blink to life above the sea, our story closes with a truth we've learned alongside them. Love isn't just about finding each other, it's about choosing to save each other, again and again. Avery and Jasper started as strangers in a storm, but they ended as each other's shelter, their little Luna the proof of a bond that no shadow could break. That's the magic of love, beautiful souls. It turns pain into promises and nights into forever. Thank you for being part of this journey with us, our Emma Stories family. If Avery and Jasper's tale warmed your heart, give it a like and subscribe so we can keep sharing these love stories with you. Tell us in the comments, have you ever saved someone you love, or been saved by them? We can't wait to hear your stories. Until next time, keep believing in love, because it's always worth the fight.